bragging a little bit on my team. We have a really good record of getting things done for people, individuals, veterans. So use us, because we do work for you. Okay, so here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to just update on what's going on in Congress, in DC. As you know, it's a bit of a chaotic time right now. The three areas that I like to talk about, that I focus on a lot, that I think most Alaskans want us to focus on: economy, strong national security and defense, and assisting people who need help. Right? That's kind of the way I talk about my job. So let me go into those. First, growing the economy. Okay? Right now we're in a recession in Alaska. To me, this is the #1 thing we can be focused on. Right now in the U.S., we have had a flat economy literally for almost 15 years. Okay? 15 years. And that's not good. I mean, hopefully everybody can agree that that is not a good thing. So what I've been trying to do is focus, and what we've been trying to do is focus on growing the U.S. economy. Critical. U.S. economy has not hit 3% GDP growth in almost 15 years. And that's a problem. Everybody in here, I would hope, thinks that we need stronger growth and that that's important. Let me mention something. If we're growing, some of our bigger challenges that we have in the state, that we have in the country, we can tackle those. If we keep growing at 1%, 1.5%, we're gonna have a hard time with almost everything. Let me give you one example that I know nobody's gonna ask me, but it's a huge issue that I focus on. Right now we have a $20 trillion debt. 20 trillion. Okay? I have kids. Kids. A lot of you have kids, grandkids. If we don't start growing the economy and getting on that issue, we're going to be the first generation of Americans who have left our kids and grandkids in much worse shape. So 20 trillion, we got to focus on that. I think that's a really big deal. So,
nationalize the banks. We bought them.
Hey guys, let's try and keep this. I'm going to give my statement, and if you have a question, you want to nationalize banks, ask me about what I think about it. So let me tell you what we're trying to do to grow the economy. First, we just passed last year a 5-year long-term highway bill, infrastructure bill. That's going to bring hundreds of millions, about 500 million. Each year it goes up about 50 to Alaska. 500, 550, 600, 650 over the next 5 years. That's really important for the state. That was a bipartisan accomplishment. President Obama signed that. The other thing we've been doing on is rolling back what I think are onerous regulations on the economy.
Protect our environment. Environmental protection.
Okay, come on, don't be the first group that doesn't show the respect that everybody here deserves. We've been trying, in the Congress, we've been using this thing called the Congressional Review Act to roll back previously issued regulations.
Trump is unfit.
And in my view, we're going to continue to focus on that, because that's important. Again, I think this goes to growing the economy. It's very important. Very important. Let me give you another area that we're focused on: fisheries. Right now, I chair the subcommittee on the Commerce Committee in charge of the Coast Guard, fisheries for the U.S., and we just passed out of the committee just a couple days ago the Coast Guard bill, which has a lot of important stuff in it for Alaska. We also passed out of the committee, these are all very bipartisan, a bill called the Save Our Seas Act. This is the bill I'm working on with Senator Whitehouse. Very, again, bipartisan on ocean debris, ocean plastics. We're hoping to make sure that we're going to be able to clean up our oceans. We're hoping to move that forward soon. We had a really good actually getting land, federal land to Alaskans. Very important issue, not huge amounts, but even Midtown Anchorage, we got 10 acres of land, federal land, just been sitting there for years. Senators for the last decade have been trying to get that done. We got that done last year. These are things that I think help grow the economy. I think it's really important that we need a diversified economy, no doubt. Telecoms, tourism, Arctic economy, aviation. But I will say this, and I'm sure I'm going to get some red cards on this one. I flatly reject, because I think it's bad for the state, I think it's bad for the country, this movement that you see in Washington and you see in some places in Alaska to, quote, keep it in the ground. I think that's going to actually not help our economy. That's where we would respectfully disagree. But I'm sure actually most Alaskans agree with me on that one. Let me turn to the next issue I talked about. Strong military, strong national defense. So I'm sure you see when you pick up the paper, we have a lot of national security challenges right now. Whether it's North Korea, that's a big one. Iran, China, Russia.
Trump.
I like to say. You guys are cracking me up here. I like to say that right now, I mean, that's serious. These are real challenges we have right now. One of the things for our state that I think is important is that I think it's being recognized more and more in Washington that Alaska constitutes what I say are 3 pillars of America's military power. We have the cornerstone of missile defense, and that's really important right now given the North Korea threat, the increasing Iran threat. If one of these rogue nations shoots a missile towards anywhere in America, it could be Alaska, it could be New York, it could be LA, it's our men and women in uniform in Alaska that are charged with the capability to track that and shoot it down. We should all be proud of that. I have a bill that I'm going to be introducing next week that would make our missile defenses even more robust. It's very bipartisan, because I think most Democrats and Republicans recognize that we got to do more on missile defense, because it's a bit of a scary time. Kim Jong-un is going to have a missile, probably within the next couple of years, an intercontinental ballistic nuclear missile that can hit, that's going to be able to range the United States. That's a scary thing. We need to do more to protect the homeland. And that's almost all based here, and that's something we should all be proud of. The second pillar is we are the hub of air combat power. With the F-22s here at J-Bear, with the F-35s coming to Eielson, with a whole other amount of aircraft that we have throughout the state, and the training we have here, we have more aircraft and assets to protect our nation's interests in the Asia Pacific and the Arctic than any place in the world, and that's going to increase. And again, I think that's important. And then finally, we are a platform for expeditionary forces because of our strategic location to be able to deploy really anywhere on a moment's notice. And in Fairbanks, that's the 1st Striker Brigade. It's the many men and women in the reserves and Army National Guard, and it's what is called the 425 here, based at J-Bear. And I will tell you, one of the things that I worked on harder than anything in my first year in the Senate was when I got into office, the previous administration said they were going to get rid of those 5,000 men and women who constitute the only airborne brigade combat team in the entire Asia Pacific and in the entire Arctic. And we fought that, tooth and nail, fought that, and we kept them. And they're here, and they protect the country, and they're great men and women, and they're your neighbors, and we should all be proud of them. Which brings a final point on our military authority.
Blow the defense industry.
It's 3 pillars, but it's actually 4, because there's nowhere in the world, and I'm not saying this just because I'm your senator, that has a stronger support for their military than the communities in Alaska. And that's all of you. So thank you for that. It's really